Hi everyone, and welcome to the Knit California podcast. My name is Leslie. I am Knit California here on YouTube and also over on Instagram, and this is episode 30. I'm so excited to be back with another episode today. Last week kind of got away from me. If you keep up with my channel, I did release a video last week all about the Oslo Hat and explaining that one instruction in the hat that tells you to turn. It was meant to be like a bonus video, and I was going to come out with another like regular podcast episode last weekend, but the week ahead of that was just like very busy, and it came to Friday afternoon when I normally film and I was like, I don't have anything done. It came to Saturday morning and I was like, I don't have anything done. And by anything done, I was just like, I felt like I hadn't made a lot of progress on any of my knits compared to the week before. I was like, this is gonna be a boring episode, and time just kind of slipped away and I didn't film a regular episode last week. Well, of course, Sunday came and I finished a couple things. So we are here today with 2 finished objects, 2 new cast-ons, a whip that you have seen before that I have progress on. So it's a whole bunch of new stuff going on today. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be here and to talk you through all of it. So without further ado, you might be able to see I'm wearing one of my finished objects. Dun dun dun! This is the Lento sweater by Jonna Hietala for Liane magazine, and I knit this in Explore Knits and Fibers. The colorway is To the Stars Who Listen, in her Denali sock base and Surrey alpaca base held together. It's, I don't know if you can tell, but like, it's really soft and it's really fuzzy, and this is a really interesting sweater design. This was not originally part of my like raglan comparison series, but I saw I saw Rebecca from the Crayabea making this, and she had / still has a whole knit along going on for the Lento. On Instagram it's #Let'sLento, so you can go over there and check it out if you would like to join. But this is like a really interesting sweater in that the gauge is very large, and when Rebecca was talking about it, you know, she said she didn't need a lot of yarn, like she didn't need as much as like a normal DK weight sweater would take, and that was really appealing to me because I had 3 skeins of sock and 3 skeins of Surrey in this, and I thought to myself, I think I can do that. I think I can knit the Lento and get a full sweater out of it with just 3 skeins of each, and I did. The sleeves are long enough. Thank God. If you've been here for a little bit, I've been having a sleeve saga with my last couple sweaters, just like not knitting them long enough. So really happy about that. But let me talk you through some of the stats of this project. And of course, now that it's done, like this is a raglan, so I am going to include this in my full raglan comparison video when that comes in probably April at this point now, because I added a whole nother sweater in. So yeah, okay. The pattern calls for a 15 stitch gauge on 6mm needles. Now, I thought the Cozy Classic Raglan gauge was really large at 18 stitches. For comparison, a typical DK weight sweater, you're looking at like 20 stitches per 4 inches, 21 stitches, 22 stitches, somewhere in there. So if you know, my argument when we did the Cozy Classic Raglan last was 18 stitches is huge. It's very different on the same size needle, typically like a 4mm or 4.5mm needle. This is 15 stitches. That's even bigger. But she does have you go up to a 6mm needle, and I actually, when I swatched, I went up to a 6.5mm needle, and I ended up with 14 stitches per 4 inches. And I said, I'm good with that. I'm gonna stick with 6.5, because typically what happens is I swatch, and my swatch is like, this has been happening for my last couple sweaters. My swatch ends up different than what the final garment ends up as. So my swatch was at 14 stitches. My final unblocked gauge, so I measured this before I blocked it, and it was measuring 16 stitches. And I was like, really? Like, it's different, but it was unblocked. So then I blocked and I remeasured, and my final blocked gauge, actually it was 14 stitches. It was right where my swatch was. And we can talk about blocking in a little bit, but this blocked out like huge. So we had to do a little bit of blocking magic, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, like I said, I used 3 skeins of sock weight yarn, fingering weight. They were 400 yards per 100 grams, and I used 3 skeins of Surrey, which was 328 yards per 50 grams, and I did have some left over. You see, I think I'm sitting right in front of it. Yeah. So here is what I had left over of each. And I guess this is like good to show you also. So this is what the yarn looked like. This is what each of the yarns looked like. Like, this is the same colorway dyed on 2 different bases, but the sock, you can see, is like much darker. It's got a lot more depth to it, compared to the Surrey is like a much lighter color. It's floofier, and that's just how Surrey takes the dye, and you can kind of see how it ended up in the sweater. I feel like the sweater like really marls the 2 colors. I feel like in some areas we see the dark, in some areas we see the light, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. I was really worried at the beginning that the Surrey was really going to take over and we were going to lose all of the, like, this beautiful depth of color in the sock, and I don't think that has happened. Like, a little bit, but not as much as I thought it would happen. However, I think this colorway is coming back very soon for Explore Knits and Fibers National Parks collection, and I am definitely going to be buying a sweater quantity just of like the regular base alone without the Surrey to make something. I'm thinking a cardigan. I'm kind of in like a cardigan mood right now, but we'll see. I don't know. I just absolutely love the like I said, I keep saying it over and over, but the depth of color here, it's just so good. It's such a good colorway. Anyways, but left over, I had 87 grams of this left over, so that's like almost a full skein. Not quite, but like more than half, more than 3/4. And then I had 28 grams of Surrey, so about half a skein of Surrey left over. So that's like two plus skeins to make this sweater. That's crazy. Like, okay, but yeah, and let's see, I made the size 4, which is supposed to have a 48-inch bust circumference, and what did mine end up at? I didn't write it down. I think it's on my online notes. This is the problem, like, last year I started keeping notes about each of my sweaters on like sheets, Google Sheets, and this year I'm keeping notes in my journal, but like for comparison's sake, I don't know, the the Google Sheets has been nice just because it makes it really easy to compare sweaters. But anyway, okay. Lento. Okay, here we go. So it's supposed to be 48 inches, and my final bust, oh my gosh, did I not measure it? I haven't measured it yet. Shit. Okay, before blocking it was 44 inches. Okay, pause. We're gonna take a measurement break really fast and we'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I took it off, I measured it, we're good. I understand now. Okay, so before, let's see, the specs from the pattern for the size 4 say a 48-inch bust. When I finished the sweater, before I blocked it, I measured it out to a 44-inch circumference. And I also always measure the front length from the bottom of the collar. I don't know why I do it from the bottom of the collar, but one of the patterns when I was doing the drop shoulders said to measure it from here all the way to the bottom, and that's what I've been doing ever since that pattern told me to. But anyways, from right here, the bottom of the collar and the front to the bottom before blocking was 18 inches in length. After blocking, this sweater is now 48 inches in circumference, so right on the size recommended in the pattern, which thank God, I feel like that never happens to me. But we're right on length, or width, we're right on width, and then length, it actually shrunk, so it's 17.5 inches now length from the bottom of the collar to the bottom of the sweater. So basically what happened in blocking was I blocked it wider and it lost some of its length. The other thing that happened during blocking is the sleeves, like, they tried to be a mile long, literally. And I think that's just the characteristics of Surrey. I think Surrey does not have memory like wool does. For example, my Dear Duomo sweater is knit with 2 strands of it's an 80-10-10 superwash merino cashmere nylon, and that yarn has memory. So like, I blocked it, I blocked the sleeves to the length I wanted them to be, but now when I go back and wear it, the sleeves are too short. So like, the yarn remembered where it wanted to be and it kind of like shrunk back to where it was. Wool has that. Surrey alpaca does not have that. So I blocked it, I washed it, and it stretched, and it is not going to go back to how it was before, unless I tell it to in blocking. So this is kind of something kind of cool that I learned 2 years ago now. But when you wash your sweater, and let's say the sleeves do end up being a mile long, you don't have to let it dry like that. You can, I've heard other people recently call it the pat and smoosh. I've just been calling it pat. You can pat your sweater and move the stitches back into place where you want them to be. So like, pat it down, smoosh it back up, for the sleeves especially, so that they end up being the length that you want them to be. Okay? I think I have a little video. You may have seen that. But anyways, I am really happy with how this ended up. So final amount of positive ease is 8 inches of positive ease for me, and I really like that. Another thing that I did, so all of the ribbing was done on like different size needles. So the collar ribbing, the pattern recommends using 4 millimeters, I think, because I went up to 6.5. I also went up for the ribbing to 4.5 here. The bottom of the sweater, let's see if I can show you this without flashing. The bottom of the sweater, I just kept 6.5 millimeter needles. I just went like this was 6.5. I did the ribbing on 6.5. In hindsight, I wish I had gone down to a 6 or a 5.5. So I did 6 millimeter needles on the wrist sleeve collar. Basically what I was going for was just like a straight sweater. When you use a needle size that's like 2 sizes smaller and you're doing ribbing, it, especially at the bottom, it seems to cinch the whole sweater in at the waist. And I realized that this isn't something that I necessarily want for all of my sweaters. I actually like really like the ones that are just straight all the way down. And so that's what I was going for. And there were a couple of ways that I thought about doing this. The first, which is what I did, was just using the same needle size for the ribbing as the body. And I like it. It gives it the effect that I wanted, but I feel like the ribbing looks really big. Like I feel like it's noticeably different than what it should be. And so I think on the sleeves, I just think it's better. Like it's a little bit smaller, but it's still straight. And so I would recommend like going down. That was only half a needle size instead of like the full 2 needle sizes. So that was one of the options. Another one of the options that I could have done was do a split hem. And I just wasn't sure how that was going to look and feel with this yarn combination, the Surrey. Like this is such a light and airy sweater. I just like wasn't sure about it, so I didn't go with that. But in hindsight, I do think it would have looked nice. So you can go down, you know, the 2 needle sizes and do the ribbing in split hem, and that still will give you the shape that you're looking for if you kind of just want it to be straight. So that's that. Let's see what else. Any changes that I made from the pattern? The pattern does tell you to do a provisional cast on here for the collar. I did not do that. I don't really like provisional cast ons, and I could tell, okay, I mentioned this I think in the last episode, but the pattern calls for a folded collar, but nowhere in the pattern does it say like we are doing a folded collar. It just gives you the instructions for doing a folded collar. So it took me a little bit to figure that out. I was like, what is happening? And that's just part of like, this pattern was originally published in magazine, and so like word length and pattern length was limited. Like you could only say so much. So I get it, but at the same time it's like that took me a little bit to figure that out. Anyways, so I did not do the provisional cast on. I just did a regular cast on and a regular long tail cast on because I knew that works best for me when folding over the collar. And it's like a pretty short folded over collar, and I really like it. I think it's cute. I did add elastic in because it was like opening up a little bit wide. I only did it on the bottom right now. I may go back and do another row. I've seen people do both the bottom and the top, and I may go back and do that, but it has helped a little bit. The collar wasn't like super wide, but I definitely wanted it to be in a little bit more, and it was kind of just like a little bit wonky. Again, because of the Surrey, like it doesn't hold its shape as well. So this is my first time doing that, and I think it's working out really nice. So far. I just did it this morning, so. And I've worn this a few times already without the elastic, and I just keep thinking like, I want it to sit a little bit more like this. So yeah, we'll see. I'll see if I add more in. I'll give you the update, of course, if I do. Overall, I felt like, okay, I did knit this in like 20 days, so like 2.5 weeks, but I felt like with how big the needles were, It should have been going faster. Like, I felt like I was not knitting as fast as I normally do. And I don't know if that was just a combination of like the yarn choice. Like the Surrey was pretty slippery using metal needles. I pretty much only use metal needles because I like them better. But I think it also had to do with just the size of the needles. Like, I don't normally knit on 6.5mm needle. That's a really big needle size for me. I'm way more comfortable on like 4.5, 4mm, somewhere around there. So I think that played into it. Now, you know, whether 20 days is slow or fast for you, that's definitely a personal thing. That ended up being pretty quick for me. So overall, happy with it. I did add length to the sleeves. So I think in the pattern, like, again, it doesn't say this, but looking at the photo of the finished object in the pattern, it looks like the sleeves are meant to be bracelet length. And so when I knit the sleeves to the length stated in the pattern, I actually tried it on to see if we were good to start the ribbing, and I was like, oh my god, no. They were like, the sleeves were probably like all the way up here, and I was like, and there's 2 inches of ribbing, so that still leaves me with like a lot of like length here that I needed to add. So I ended up adding 3 inches to both of the sleeves, and I'm really happy I did. I don't know necessarily if I needed to add that much, just with like how much they stretched in blocking, but either way, I'm glad I added 3 inches onto the sleeves, because now they're full sleeves and I don't have to go back and do sweater surgery to add more later like I do on some of my other ones. Yeah. Alright. And I think that's it. Overall, I'm really happy with it. I think it's beautiful. It's extremely warm. I also entered this into Casey from Young Folk Knits, is doing a bougie sweatshirt knit along, hashtag bougie sweatshirt cal, and so I entered this in that knit along also, and like, this is, I feel like, the epitome of a bougie sweatshirt. Like, I feel like even the way it looks with like the small folded collar, it's kind of like a crew neck. It's super warm, it's super fluffy, but like it's bougie at the same time because it's hand knit with hand dyed yarn. But it's still got that sweatshirt feel, a little bit oversized. It's got the big like rib at the bottom. It's kind of like one of those like old worn out sweatshirts where the elastic like isn't in the bottom band anymore, so it's kind of straight. Anyway, yeah, you can still join that knit along, I think, as well. So yeah, that's it. I love it. I've worn it, let's see, how many times have I worn it so far? 3 times. I've worn it 3 times so far, and I finished it on February 12th, and today is the 18th. So 3 times in 6 days. It's like every other day because I love it. So that is the Lento. Yay! Really happy with it. Okay, I was like playing with something, I need to put it away. Put it away. Okay, I have one other finished object that I'm really excited to show you. I don't even think this was cast on in the last regular podcast episode. It was cast on when I did the Oslo Hat explanation, and so that might give you a hint as to what it is. It's an Oslo hat, and not only is it an Oslo hat, but it's a baby size Oslo hat. Look at this. I can't see it. Look how small it is. It's so tiny. Oh, I love it so much. Okay, so my brother and sister-in-law are having a baby literally any day now. He was due on February 13th and he's not here yet. And I hadn't knit him anything, I was like really stressed out about it, like all leading up to the baby shower, leading up to Christmas. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to make. I don't know what to knit. I was like going back and forth literally for months. And finally I was just like, I need to knit something for little baby. So we knit a little Oslo hat. It's so cute. Look at this. So just, I mean, we've talked about this enough, but this is the Oslo Hat by PetiteKnit. I actually had to use the Mohair edition pattern because the Mohair edition is the one that has like way more sizes compared to the regular version. The regular version only has like 3 sizes, I think, like kid, medium, adult, large, man, whereas the Mohair edition has like 7 sizes or something like that, and they had baby. So I knit the smallest size. The yarn that I use for this is Explorer Knits and Fibers Rocky's DK, and this is the colorway Court of Dreams. So we got a real ACOTAR moment going on here. So Explorer Knits, I mean really Kate from Red Door Fiber Studio is the one that had the A Court of Thorns and Roses collection. Allie from Explorer Knits was a guest dyer, and she dyed both Court of Dreams and To the Stars Who Listen. So if you look like really closely, you can kind of see these like turquoisey bits that are in this Court of Dreams colorway that translate into this tonal whole color situation going on here. So I love it. And this was leftover yarn from my Cozy Classic Raglan sweater that I finished in January. So I was able to get a whole little baby Oslo hat out of it. I love it so much. I hope it fits. Like, he's gonna be a big baby because he's already gone like 5 days over his due date. So, and by the time I end up giving this to him, I just hope it fits. And if it doesn't, you know what? We'll make him another one in a different color because I don't have too much of this left over, but it's so cute. I love it so much. Anyways, that is finished object number 2 for today. Alright, let's move on. I guess while we're on the topic of Oslo hats, I will show you the other one that I have cast on. It is, here it is. This one is for my husband Joel. So I haven't folded the brim yet. Why does it look all, okay. I haven't folded the brim yet, and this is like honestly the worst part because it just like goes on forever and ever. But the yarn that I'm using for this is Miami Fiber Co. in the colorway Thanator. This was from her Avatar collection, and this is on her Pembroke DK base. So the Oslo hat, like regular edition, calls for fingering weight, and you're supposed to hold 2 strands together. I wanted to try out using a DK weight. I still have 2 skeins of it because I think yardage wise, I'm definitely going to need both skeins. But yeah, so far it's going well. I'm using the same needle size that I normally use, and I don't see any issues with it so far. But I wanted to show you this yarn. Isn't it really cool? It's like dark and moody greens and blues with like a little bit of purple. It's like very similar to this Court of Dreams, but like the darker version of it. Now they're 2 different dyers, but I just get like similar vibes, but like darker. And I know Joel is really gonna like this because he stole my purple Woodruff Oslo hat and was wearing it the other day, like all day, like wouldn't take it off. But he kept saying like, it's a little too small, it's a little too small. And I was like, stop stretching it out on your big head and I will make you your own. So here we go. I am, oh gosh, I'm so close. 12 more rows until I can do the fold, and then it goes really fast after that. So yay, that's Oslo hat number 2. And while we're on the subject of hats, I've kind of like just made up a goal for myself that I like always want to have a hat on the needles. Maybe after I like do my whole sock thing later this year, it'll switch to socks. But when I finish that Oslo hat, I really want to cast on this Sari Nordland hat. I'm gonna find it for you to make sure I give you the correct name, because she has a bunch of, they're like 2x2 ribbed hats that came out recently. I don't understand what the differences are, but they're named different things. I think they're different weight yarns, but oh, the sailor beanie. Okay, so once I finish this Oslo hat for Joel, I want to cast on the Sailor Beanie by Sari Nordland. And what really drew me in was the color of the sample that she knit is very, very similar to this yarn that I have in my stash. And actually, these 2 skeins, were in my de-stash pile. I was gonna get rid of these. I used this yarn for a cardigan, a colorwork steeped cardigan, my Maddie cardigan that I knit last year. That you might remember this if you've been watching the podcast for a while, and you may have noticed that I like haven't talked about it in a really long time, and that's because it's not finished yet. I steeped it, and I just have to do the button band, and I just haven't done it yet. So someday, hopefully this year, that will get done. But I had these 2 skeins like fully left over, and I was just gonna de-stash them because I was like, I'm not gonna use them. Well, they were sitting in my de-stash pile, and I kept looking at them, and then I saw this photo of the Sari Nordland sailor beanie, and I was like, this is the same, and now I want that. And this beanie is worsted weight, so she says lace plus DK held together. So if I do 2 strands of fingering plus, look at this mohair. Isn't this gorgeous? Don't these all look really, really pretty together? Yeah, I think it's gonna make a gorgeous, gorgeous beanie. So this, I didn't say, this is the Biches Buches Le Petit Lamb's Wool in the colorway light pink violet. I have 2 skeins, and then this is the Fuzzy Peach Fibers Mohair Silk Lace in the color Wild Berry, and it's 50 grams, 459 yards, and these are 50 grams, 270 yards. Oh, I might not have enough. Shoot. Well, I might need to order another skein. I don't know. This is what I want to cast on next. We'll figure it out. I'm not too worried about it right now, but I just really liked these colors. I thought they were gorgeous. So that's that. A little bit of dream knitting in the middle of the pod. And okay, now I have 2 new cast-ons to show you. I'm pretty excited about. So let's start with, which one should we start with? Let's start with this one. This was kind of a surprise cast on to me. Basically what happened was I knit the Lento, and I was like, okay, cool. I can knit like a full sweater with like way less yardage than I thought. And I have some skeins that I would like to use for a sweater, but I don't have very much of them. And that was this yarn. This is it's from Wool Circle. It's a white-faced woodland English sheep breed. This yarn was actually gifted to me last year by Wool Circle. They reached out to me on Instagram and they gifted me 2 skeins of this, and I have been so excited about it since it was gifted to me, but also like majorly stressed out and freaked out trying to figure out what I was gonna make with it. And when Rebecca from the Crayabea was like, I knit this with only 2 skeins of yarn, I was like, 2 skeins of fingering weight yarn, like with a mohair held with it? I have that. I can do that. And so this was kind of a test to see like how much yardage I actually needed, and unfortunately I did break into that 3rd skein. So I had these 2 skeins and I was like, shoot, I'm gonna need another skein to go with it. And then I had the brilliant idea of I can do stripes, because Rebecca, hers that she just finished, is fully striped, and I was like, well, what if I just do like one like accent color stripe? And so I went digging around in my yarn stash, and I found this. This is Explorer Knits and Fibers. I think this is her Denali sock base in the colorway Untamed. I have been lusting after this colorway for so long. I have not bought a full sweater quantity of it, although I also think this may be coming back soon, and I am going to buy a full sweater quantity of it because I love it so much. I think it's a really, really gorgeous pink. And so I'm going to do stripes. I'm going to make a Lento with stripes. Oh, hold on. I have to show you the best part. And I'm going to hold it with this mohair all the way through. How gorgeous is that? Isn't that so pretty? So I have some full skeins of this mohair just to show you what it looks like. This is Bella Filato Studio in the colorway Lake Erie. This was from her Great Lakes collection that she has run in the summer, like for the last 2 years in a row. But it's just this like really gorgeous, it's got pinks, purples, like orangey beige, and I think it's gorgeous. So I actually had 4 skeins of this, and I think I'm only really gonna need 2. So I've only caked up 1 so far. Where's the other one? Oh, it's still in my yarn stash. So, but how pretty is that? So all of these, I'm really excited about it. So what I'm a little bit worried about is just like in striping this, these are 2 different yarn bases. So this is a very like woolly British wool, and this is a superwash merino. So the characteristics of them are a little bit different. They feel a little bit different, but I'm just gonna go for it. And we will see what happens. Is really all we can do for now. It's kind of like an experiment, but I have cast on. This is what I have so far. So I'm, not even like halfway through the collar, and I still need to figure out like how I'm gonna do the stripes, like if I'm gonna do big chunks or if it's, I think what I'm gonna end up doing, because I only have the 1 skein of the Untamed, is like big white, small pink, big white, small pink, because I really just need enough. Like if you remember from this, I ended up with my fingering weight yarn. I used 852 yards. So I'm pretty sure this is 100 grams, 400 yards is what I'm estimating. It didn't actually say how much yardage it has on it, so it may end up having more. Like this may be like 460 yards or something, but I'm underestimating so that I make sure I have enough. So if I'm guessing this is 400 yards, then I really only need like 50 yards of this. So it's kind of like 1/3 of my sweater is gonna be this. Maybe, like, if I think about it like that, like 2/3 this, 1/3 this. So I'm kind of thinking about that in terms of like the stripes. Like, should I do like 2 stripes white, 1 stripe pink, and like make small stripes? Should I make large stripes? I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. I was gonna knit the collar first and then kind of just like go from there. But if you have any suggestions, I guess a couple things to think about. Like, first, any idea how these yarns will play together in a full-size sweater with like a British woolly non-superwash wool plus a superwash merino wool? Just curious. Like, in my mind, I'm thinking the superwash will maybe like stretch a little bit, whereas the British wool might not. So that's kind of something to like think about. The other piece is like, remember this, the gauge on this is huge. So like one, you know, let me see. I ended up with 23 rows per 4 inches. It's like about 6 rows per inch. So like, I can't do like a whole lot of rows of one color. Like, a lot of rows of one color is going to be like a big chunk, if that makes sense. So anyways, kind of just like a lot that I'm thinking about. If you have any ideas or suggestions about any of it, leave it in a comment down below. Curious to hear your thoughts. And as always, I'll keep you updated on how this is going. So this is kind of going to be my like my backup project, because I've got 3 things on the needles now, and 2 of them are sweaters, which like I really don't do well when I do that to myself. Something always ends up like just not being touched. Case in point, my champagne cardigan that is still sitting over here and I haven't touched it in months. But anyways, we'll see how this goes. Because the final thing that I have cast on, I'm really excited about, is my Semper sweater. And this is like my main project right now. So the Semper sweater is a pattern by Sophie from the Knit Purl Girl. And the yarn I am using is, look at this color. Oh my gosh, isn't it so good? This is Ken yarn in his Aurora fingering base in the colorway Raspberry Sundae. And I am holding it together with Lang Lace Mohair. I don't know what colorway this is. Probably also like raspberry something, but doesn't that look so good together? Okay, here's the swatch. I'm really excited about this. Look how you can kind of see a little bit of that marling effect in here too, with like the slightly darker mohair. I just think it looks so pretty. And look how good it looks, like these contrasts with like this sweater and this sweater. Not that I'm like ever gonna be wearing them at the same time or like have them at the same time, but just obsessed. Okay, so here's what I've got so far. I'm kind of at exactly the same point as my other Lento, where I cast on and I started the collar, but that's it. That's all I've done. So, but I'm really liking this yarn combo. It's super soft, and that's all like attributed to the Lang Lace. I love this mohair. It's a little bit pricier, but you actually get like a lot. Like, this is 25 grams, and oh, I didn't do the math. It's 310 meters. So you can do the math to figure out how many yards that is. I should also do the math, but like, that's a lot for a 25 gram ball. I purchased this, I think, at Wool & Company, and they ship, and they have like a lot of colors. So this is the same mohair that I used in my souffle tee, the hot pink. So it was a like hot pink color. This is a little bit darker than what I used. And then this is also the same mohair that I used in my Cozy Classic Raglan. I had the storm blue colorway in that. And it's just a really soft mohair. I find that a lot of other commercial mohairs do irritate me. So I haven't had any issues so far with hand-dyed mohair. Like I used the Sorella yarn hand-dyed mohair for my Oslo sweater. I have no issues with that. And so we'll see how this goes. But like even just feeling this, like I think this is similar percentages to the Sorella yarn mohair. So I don't know, we'll see. I'm not super worried about it. But this is like one of my favorites. So just as an FYI. And yeah, my Semper Sweater. So I am knitting, let's see, I'm knitting size G, which is the 7th size in the pattern, for a 45.3 inch bust is what it says here. Now, it's recommended to do 2 to 4 inches of positive ease, and I actually went up 1 size from what's recommended just because I'm like already anticipating that the size that I end up with is going to be closer to that 2 to 4 inches of positive ease. With a 45-inch bust, that's about 5 inches for me, but like with the Cozy Classic Raglan and some of the drop shoulders, like the size that I knit to was bigger than the size that it actually ended up. So I'm kind of taking all of that into account. But yeah, okay, just like a little bit more on the specs. This sweater kind of goes back to like your normal DK weight, gauge, and needle size. So recommended gauge is 21 stitches on 4.5 millimeter needles, and I hit 20 stitches on 4.5 millimeter needles after I blocked my swatch. So I'm sticking with that. I'm sticking with 4.5 millimeter needles, and we'll see how it goes. So yeah, that's it. That's all I'm keeping it in my giant Black Pearl Magic bag, which is like my favorite bag ever. I have all my skeins in here. I keep my Mood Living needle case in here. My swatch, not that I really need it, but I just stick it all in here, and this like sits by my bed, which is where I normally knit. And yeah, super fun. So, oh, drink your water. Ugh. Oh yeah, mohair. That's all my projects. I don't have any yarn acquisitions. You guys, I have not, let me see. Let me look at my journal here. I have not had any yarn come in February. I added these 2 skeins back into my stash from my D-stash pile, so I added these 2 back in, but as of right now, and we're a little bit over halfway through February, we've got a lot of stuff going out, which is good. However, I have one, yeah, I think I have one outstanding order that I've ordered that hasn't come in yet, so that will probably come in February. And then coming up in March, like early March, there's a couple pre-orders that I'm definitely going to be partaking in. The first being the Explorer Knits National Park. I think she hasn't announced all the colorways yet, but I'm thinking I'm going to order like a couple sweater quantities of tonals, depending on what ends up in the shop. I know that To the Stars Who Listen is going to be in. I'm hoping that Untamed, that I showed you earlier, is going to be one of the colorways, and I'm really hoping that Daybreak is going to be one of the colorways. I have a couple skeins of Daybreak. Let me see if I can find it to show you. Yeah, this like rusty orange dark colorway. I think I would really like to make like an oversized cardigan in this colorway. Yeah, I don't know. I really actually would like something a little bit redder now that I'm looking at it, but we'll see. We'll see what we end up with. I've been really thinking recently that I would like some oversized cardigans in like textured stitch pattern. So like brioche, half fisherman's rib, broken rib, something like that, like a full cardigan. I was looking at a couple pattern options, but they're not size inclusive, and so I'm really like frustrated about that. I've been doing a deep dive on Ravelry to like see if I can find anything that's size inclusive, and I've been having a really hard time finding what I want in something that is size inclusive. So if you have any pattern suggestions of something that's like brioche, fisherman's rib, half fisherman's rib, something similar to that texture in like a cardigan that is size inclusive, let me know. My top contender right now is the oversized Seasons cardigan by Ozetta. The regular version, the Seasons cardigan, is not size inclusive, but the oversized one I think is, which I don't understand. Like, just make all your patterns size inclusive, come on. And then the other one that I'm interested in is the Winter Lines cardigan. It's gorgeous, but it only has like 3 or 4 sizes, and it's supposed to be knit with like a lot of positive ease. So like, I don't know. Those types of patterns I'm always like very skeptical. Like, how do you know it's gonna be what you want and like the right thing? But it, like, the Ravelry page also said like you can kind of just knit this to whatever size you want, and I was like, I don't understand. I might need to read through that a little bit more. But yeah, if you have any suggestions of like size inclusive cardigans, let me know. But I think this would be really pretty. Yeah, so anyways, when I film podcasts, I just like to look at my yarn stash and then show you things, and I just really have the urge to do that right now, but I don't need to be doing that. Let's see, coming up, I just gotta knit these 2 sweaters that I cast on, and hats, so I'm excited about it. 1x1 rib is really like not my favorite thing, and both of my sweaters are on the collar, which is 1x1 rib, so I just gotta sit down and like do it, you know? So it'll happen, it'll get done, we'll have some progress for next week hopefully, and yeah, it'll be good. Just waiting for little baby to come. Hopefully next week little baby will be here. I don't know if I'll have any photos of baby in the beanie by next week, maybe the week after, but yeah. Alright, that's it guys, now I'm just rambling. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today and for your support in the podcast, on my channel. I hope you guys all have a really great rest of your day. You can find some knitting time, and I will talk to you next week. Bye!